Have you ever thought about how one single event can totally change the course of history? I'm not talking about a war or a revolution. I'm talking about a single geological event on a remote island, an event that would go on to shape our art, our technology, and even our deepest nightmares. This is the incredible story of the year without a summer, and how one volcano literally forged the world we live in today.
The year was 1816. But, it's probably better known by its other names. 1800 and froze to death, the poverty year, or the one that really sticks, the year without a summer.
And this whole story starts with a question that sounds almost like a riddle. What could possibly connect the most violent volcanic eruption in recorded human history happening on one side of the planet
To the birth of the modern monster in a Swiss villa and the invention of the world's most popular form of transport on a muddy road in Germany? Well, the answer is an unbelievable story of global catastrophe and, somehow, incredible human creativity.
Okay, so our story actually kicks off a year earlier, April 1815, on the Indonesian island of Sumbawa. We're talking about the eruption of Mount Tambora. And listen, this wasn't just any old eruption. This was an event that literally blew the top off a mountain and made sure the entire world heard it.
The numbers on this slide are just mind-blowing. It hit a 7 on the Volcanic Explosivity Index. That's called an Ultra-Plinian eruption, which is the second highest rating you can get. It's a truly cataclysmic event. To give you some perspective, the blast was so powerful it vaporized nearly a full mile of the mountain's height. And it shot debris 43 kilometers. That's 27 miles straight up into the stratosphere, way, way above any weather.
And this number? This represents the immediate, horrifying human cost. About 10,000 people were killed instantly. But then the starvation and disease that followed, from poisoned water and fields buried in ash, claimed tens of thousands more. For the people on that island, it was the end of the world. But for the rest of the planet, the chaos was just getting started.
So that local disaster was about to go global. The effects of the explosion began to spread through the atmosphere, plunging the entire planet into chaos and kicking off a year of bizarre, terrifying, and straight-up deadly weather.
Now here's the key thing to understand. It wasn't actually the ash that caused the global cooling. The ash fell out of the sky pretty quickly. The real culprit was sulfur dioxide. All that gas got blasted into the stratosphere, where it mixed with water and formed this massive cloud of sulfuric acid aerosols. It was like a planetary sunshield that wrapped around the globe and literally dimmed the sun for the next 3 years, causing temperatures to just plummet.
And this global cooling was weird. It wasn't the same everywhere. Over in North America, it brought this shocking, unseasonable cold. People talked about a strange, dry fog that wouldn't go away, and it made the sun look hazy and red. It actually snowed in New England in June. There were hard frosts every single month of the summer. But in Europe, the cooling created this relentless, soul-crushing rain that just never stopped. It flooded rivers and made the crops rot right in the fields. The result was the last great food crisis in the Western world. This wasn't just a bad harvest. This was a total collapse of the food system. And to really get the level of desperation, just look at this detail from Vermont. With their main crops failing, families were literally eating hedgehogs, digging up wild turnips, and boiling nettles. Anything they could possibly find just to stay alive.
And yet, out of all this darkness and desperation, something completely extraordinary was born. Let's shift our focus from the widespread famine to a single lakeside villa in Switzerland, where that gloomy weather trapped a group of young English writers indoors and ended up changing literature forever.
So, the group included some heavy hitters: Lord Byron, Percy Shelley, and his 18-year-old future wife, Mary Godwin. Their big plans for a summer of boating and hiking? Totally washed out by that endless rain. To kill some time, they started reading German ghost stories, and that's when Byron threw out his famous challenge. After struggling with it for days, Mary had what she called a waking nightmare. They'd been having all these late-night talks about science and reanimation, and she suddenly envisioned this horrifying scene that you see described right here, in her own words. That vision became Frankenstein, a story born directly from the gloom and dread of the volcanic winter and the novel that basically invented the entire science fiction genre. Just wow. Okay, so at the exact same time, this crisis was forcing a completely different kind of innovation. This one wasn't driven by literary boredom, but by a total breakdown in the most fundamental technology of the time, transportation. And here's a critical chain reaction a lot of people miss. The crop failures didn't just hurt humans.
The price of oats, horse fuel, went through the roof. All of a sudden, the world's main engine, the horse, was either too expensive to feed or was being eaten. Society was literally grinding to a halt, and it desperately needed a new way to get from A to B.
Enter a German inventor named Karl von Drais. He saw this horsepower crisis and designed a solution, a mechanical horse. He called it the Laufmaschine, or running machine. It was a simple wooden frame with 2 wheels. No pedals, you just sat on it and, well, ran with your feet.
And this timeline just lays it all out so clearly. The 1816 famine creates the problem. By 1817, Drais has the solution. His famous first ride proved that this human-powered machine was faster than walking. It was the very first ancestor of the modern bicycle, an invention forged directly in the crisis of the year without a summer. But the story doesn't end there. Not even close. The ripples from Tambora's eruption just kept spreading, leaving behind a legacy that is just staggering in how wide and varied it is.
I mean, just look at this list. Back at that same Swiss villa, another guest, John Polidori, wrote The Vampire, creating the suave, aristocratic vampire that we still know today. In England, those strange skies inspired the incredible hazy sunsets in the paintings of J.M.W. Turner. The climate chaos in Asia helped a new, deadly strain of cholera emerge and spread across the globe. And in China, farmers who couldn't grow rice anymore turned to opium poppies, which changed geopolitics for a century. All of this from one volcano.
So, why does a 200-year-old climate crisis still matter to us today? Well, because it was a brutal, unplanned lesson in just how connected our world really is.
Before 1816, nobody could have imagined that a volcano in Indonesia could make it snow in Vermont. The sheer weirdness of the weather forced people to start actually observing and recording it systematically, which laid the groundwork for the modern science of meteorology. It was the moment we really began to understand that we all live under one shared atmosphere.
And that kind of leaves us with a final thought, doesn't it? The year without a summer was a time of immense suffering. There's no doubt about it. But that very hardship forced humanity to adapt and to create, giving us everything from science fiction to the bicycle. It really makes you wonder, as we face our own unique, modern global challenges, what incredible, unforeseen innovations might be born from them.
Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. If you found this as fascinating as I did, please go ahead and hit that like button. Leave a comment with your thoughts, and of course, be sure to subscribe to InfoNow for more deep dives into the events that shaped our world.